Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Star Wars Aftermath, Empire's End by Chuck Wendig from Del Rey Publishing. Kind of a long title there, but a great cover, and this is the third book in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy. Third and final, of course, because it's just a trilogy. So, slight spoilers ahead if you haven't read the first two books. We have a return of our crew from the first and second books, Nora Wexley and her son, and Jasamari, and all the other folks we've come to know and hopefully love. And at this point, we had a cliffhanger at the end of the second book with assassination attempts and now former Grand Admiral Ray Sloan escaping, and she had a stowaway on her ship, Nora's husband, who had been brainwashed into being an assassin, or there's a chip in his head kind of thing. Anyway, those two took off. They're headed for Jakku because Sloan feels betrayed by Gallius Rax, who's the secret puppet master of the remnants of the Empire. And Sloan has found out that he came from Jakku, so she's headed there to learn his secrets and try to stop him. And that's just at the end of the last book. So here, Nora and her crew are after Sloan. Nora doesn't know her husband stowed away over on Sloan's ship. So that's going to be a little surprise for her. But when the book starts, the crew is well into their search for Sloan. They've been tracking people, and they finally find out that she's headed to Jakku, so that's where they go. And that's when things really take off, and I don't want to say anything more in my little nutshell description here, because I don't want to give it all away, but we'll get into some of it. But that's basically where we're at after the events of the last book. Nora and her gang are after Sloan. So, as I said, this is the third book. I have reviewed the first two, and I'll put links for those up here, probably. And in my review of the second book, Life Debt, I sort of compared Aftermath and then Aftermath Life Debt to the original first two Star Wars movies. And this kind of follows in that assessment, in that it's a good book, but I do think it's the weakest of the three. There's a lot of stuff going on in this book. The story goes in all sorts of different directions, and while it's all very interesting, I think it maybe weakens the story a bit. When I was reading it, I felt that it had that, well, this is the third book in our trilogy. We have to finish everything up and make sure we get all the information in there, which some trilogies suffer from, in my opinion. And it felt like this book had that going on. I'm going to show that back cover too, because that's pretty cool. But there's so much going on in this book, it just seemed a little rushed at times. As for the writing, it's Chuck Wendig. As I always say, I think you're either gonna like his style or not. He does write in present tense, which bothers some people. I have no problem with it. He does have a different writing style, and it may take some getting used to, but I do think these books are worth reading. I do enjoy the characters that he's created. At this point, I think Jasamari is my personal favorite, the bounty hunter. I would absolutely love to see more of her. But the other characters he's made are pretty interesting as well. Of course, Mr. Bones, the old refurbished battle droid, is fantastically entertaining. So I did say there's a lot going on, and we do have the interludes that the other two books had as well. And As far as those interludes go, I mentioned this in one of the other reviews. I'm really interested in the guy that's wearing the Boba Fett armor on Tatooine. We get a little bit more of him and what's going on there, but I really want more. I want to know, because, the Boba Fett armor looks cool anyway, and you've got this guy who's sort of the sheriff of Freetown now, I think is what he's calling it. But of course, there's a lot of criminal activity on Tatooine, and they don't take kindly to someone trying to bring law and order to things. And this is just an interlude, just a little tiny piece in this book, but it fascinates me. So, interludes aside, our main story, as I said, Nora and her gang are going after Sloane. And some things happen. Our characters, our core group gets separated in a number of different directions. And some of them are dealing with things on Jakku. Some of them have gone back to the New Republic. And a lot of politics going on. There's an election for the Chancellor position. Mon Mothma's position is in danger because of this election, and there's all sorts of behind-the-scenes intrigue going on in that part of the galaxy, and some of our characters are dealing with that. And then you've got the characters that are on Jakku dealing with their own stuff there. And we've got the remnants of the Empire, the New Republic still trying to establish itself. There's just all sorts of stuff going on. Now, it is a well-written story. Again, I happen to enjoy Wendig's writing style, and I really like his characters. He gives them all a lot of personality, which is important. And he does go full Star Wars. Huge space battles going on, as well as the more personal things that are going on. We've got a new Hutt character, which again kind of brings us back to Return of the Jedi. And I don't know if it was intentional that the 3 books would sort of, at least to me, they follow that trilogy. I think the second book, although when it comes to the movies, I happen to like the first one the best. But I know most people, at least most people I've ever heard express an opinion, seem to like Empire Strikes Back the best. And the first book was more contained, somewhat like A New Hope. The second book really expands on things and ends in a cliffhanger, like Empire Strikes Back. And now with Empire's End, we've got all this stuff going on and huge space battle. And definitely the space battle at the end of Return of the Jedi is bigger than what you have in A New Hope. So I think my comparison holds. I'd like to think so. But anyway, and this, I suppose, shows us where some of the images of Jakku in The Force Awakens, where those images come from. Since there's a huge, absolutely massive space battle above Jakku, and on the surface of Jakku, those images of downed ships and wrecked vehicles and stuff, I suppose we could assume they come from this battle. We do learn more about the history of Gallius Rax and what he had planned, although we don't know everything. There are still some loose ends kind of waiting to be tied up. There's so much going on here, and I don't want to give any of it away any more than I already have, or I would talk about more specific things, some of the things that Nora goes through, some of the things that Jasamari goes through, the things that Princess Leia, Han Solo are in here. Leia's pregnant. still. She's pregnant in the last book. She's pretty close to the end during what's going on here. And again, Mon Mothma and all the politics, but there's a lot of surprises in here, a lot of twists and turns that I don't want to give away. But everybody, all our main characters have, well, for the most part, have something going on. As I said, they all get separated. Of course, they're all going to eventually, hopefully, come back together. And it seems like, I mean, the title kind of gives it away. It seems like it's the end of the Empire. And of course, if you've seen The Force Awakens, you know that it's going to give birth to the First Order. And I suppose the first trappings of that are in here. I mean, I suppose we could... I'm not sure exactly what the timeline is between these stories and the movie, but I suppose there are many things that could change what went on here and then The Force Awakens, but I think it's all starting here. I mean, the first book did have the heading Journey to The Force Awakens, so there you go. Yeah, this is kind of a rambly review. Again, I don't want to give too much away. Just it's an exciting story, lots of stuff going on, lots of great character stuff going on, and if you can just get into the writing style, I do know it bugs some people, but you know what, it's a story. I think it's a story worth reading. I do think it's probably the weakest of the three. Just again because it feels like he's trying to cram way too much in here, but that's not to say it's bad, and you'll see that by my rating, which is only slightly lower than it is for the first two books. So that kind of rambly talk. I'm trying to think if there's anything important that I need to say, because again, I hate to give too much away. I haven't given much away at all. Basically, all you need to know, lots of political intrigue in the government, lots of craziness going on Jakku as Nora and her friends try to find Sloane, try to figure out what's going on. Sloane's trying to stop Gallius Rax, huge space battle, and it's all pretty compelling. So, Star Wars Aftermath, Empire's End by Chuck Wendig. I give it 4 out of 5 Star Wars spaceship silhouettes. And if you think those silhouettes are crappy, just imagine if I had actually tried to draw these ships. But I think you can tell what they're all supposed to be. So, yeah, that Millennium Falcon outline, that's the one that doesn't count. That's the 5 of the 4 out of 5. That looks pretty crappy. I think the silhouettes themselves, since I don't have any detail, don't look too bad. But anyway, 4 out of 5. I think I gave the first two books 4.5. So it's only a slightly lower rating because it's still, I mean, it's a pretty good Star Wars story in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like these books. A lot of people don't like anything that Disney and company have done with Star Wars, but I'm digging it, and I dig this. And again, I'd love to see more of Jasamari. I'd love to see more of the sheriff wearing Boba Fett's armor. I wouldn't mind seeing more of Nora Wexley and the gang. They're all very interesting characters. I recommend it. I think you should read the entire trilogy. I do have all the new canon Star Wars books. So I just picked up Thrawn recently. So I'll get to those eventually. But for the Chuck Wendig trilogy, there you go. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning, please. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. If you want more specifics on the story, because I know I was incredibly vague on this one, just ask me in the comments. I'd be happy to talk about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I think that covers it. I will have a link or two for the book in the description down below. And that's it. So this has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.